What up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to make our very own custom YouTube subscribe button, complete with your own logo. Not only is it a great way to practice your basic motion graphic skills, but it'll add a professional touch to your videos or your clients. Let's jump into Fusion. Oh, and don't forget, stick around to the end. I got a surprise for everyone that makes it there. Let's start with blank Fusion comp. Drag it on your timeline here, put a playhead over it, and let's get into Fusion. This is going to be good practice basically for all your motion graphic. These basics will help you make anything. So we're going to use the shape system. We're also going to mask some background so you get practice in both ways to do this. First, we're just going to grab a background, connect it to our media out, and we're going to make our background alpha. Now you might be wondering, why are we starting off with a blank background? Well, it's just good practice. It's going to set the comp to your timeline resolution, which is really going to help later on, say you're importing PNG, stuff like that. It's just a good baseline to start with. Now we need to make our bar for our subscribe button. So let's grab background, bring this up in the viewer. Right now it's black. We're going to merge this over the top of our alpha background, and we're going to grab a rectangle mask and run it into the blue triangle, which is the mask input of our background. I'm going to make this really large so we can see what we're doing, because we're going to add a transform at the end, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Right now, let's get the basic shape of our subscribe button. So we'll drag out the width. Let's try 0.9. Maybe a little bit less. 0.8 looks pretty good. Let's bring down the height, and then let's turn up the corner radius. All right, so far so good. So now we need our words. So let's grab a text plus node. We're going to merge that over this background. Let's organize the node a little bit, and we just need to type in subscribe. There we go. We're halfway done. Not really, but stick with me. Go into the transform, and we're gonna offset the X value just a little bit. Something like that. All right, so far so good. Now, YouTube uses this font called Roboto, according to Google anyway. So if you don't already have this built into your computer, you should be able to find it on a website like thefont.com. It should be pretty easy to find. Now we need our icon. For that, we're going to hit shift space, and we need to add a loader node. Now I have my logo right here. We're going to select it. So if we bring it up to the viewer, there's our icon. So we now need to merge that right about here. All right, let's bring our media out back up. Not looking so hot. So let's shift space again and add a transform. Change the X value and move this over to the corner. I know the YouTube subscribe button doesn't quite look like this anymore, but I feel like this is way cooler than the normal subscribe button you see on every video. It's gonna stand out. Get your logo out there, just a little bit more branding. We can make it slightly smaller, something like that. Looks pretty good. All right, so now we have our basic subscribe button. It is missing something. We need a bell. We're gonna use a shape system to make our bell, but we need a reference image to trace it out. So first we're going to make it 2 viewers. Hit Control I to bring in images. All right, I got my bell in here now. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift space, and we're going to add a S polygon node. We can bring that up in the right viewer. We'll get rid of our media pool for now. And we're going to trace out the rough outline of this bell. Works a lot like the spline graph. So I'm gonna come in here and just do a rough outline. Close that up. All right, doesn't look that great right now. Zoom in here and select all the points, and we're gonna smooth. I'm gonna hit the smooth button. All right, it's getting there. I'm gonna hit Control, bring that up, and we're just going to play around with these curves, move them as needed until we get a decent representation of the bell icon. Like I said, control allows you to move one side without affecting the other. You see, as I'm adjusting this side and tracing the bell and the left viewer, it updates on the right viewer. Pretty soon, we have a decent looking bell. Now, I've already done this once, so I'm gonna go steal it from my other comp. Now, it's gonna be pretty small on the screen, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's good practice. I ended up making the little thing that hangs down in the middle of the bell separately, just a little half dome. You could do it all in one if you wanted to, totally up to you. But I have my two pieces of our bell. We merged them together with an S merge. I used an S transform, size, and then finally you need an S render. This is going to take our S shapes and render them into something we can use. Take my S render, I'm going to merge that right after that third merge. And you can use this S transform to move it around a little bit ahead. So that's why it's already pretty much perfectly in place. And the polygon node, something else I should mention. If you come here to style, you can change the color. So say you want your sub button black, but you want your bell to be white, vice versa. It's completely up to you. Now there is one more thing we're missing. We don't have a like button, but find yourself a reference and trace it just like we did with the bell icon. Same thing, rough outline, adjust the point, smooth, use control to adjust the position of your lines. Take some practice, but you'll be a better editor if you can do this. Let me go grab my like button. All right, same thing. I have my like button split up into two separate pieces. Made a rough outline, adjusted it with the controls I showed you earlier, put it into place with an S transform roughly, and then an S render to bring it into regular node space. We're gonna merge that here. Looks like I need to move it over just a tad bit. Down. While we got it here, we'll make it white also. Next, we need a cursor. Guess what? We're gonna use the S shape system again. If you look at my original clip, we have two cursors. We have the traditional mouse cursor. As it moves over, it turns into the little hand. Again, find your reference, trace it out with the S polygon node. All right, I got my cursor. So on one side, I have the traditional cursor. The other side, I have my little hand. So the way I got a black and a white is basically I did it twice. I made the white version, I made the black version, slightly smaller, and then I merged them together. And then it goes into an S render. Same thing with the hand. We have a white version, and then a black version, and they're merged together. You can actually do this once, copy it, and then shrink the size down. And then I'll give you this border. So these are going to be switching in between one another. So we're going to need a dissolve node. Shift space and grab you a dissolve. One will go into the foreground, one will go into the background. It doesn't necessarily matter which one, as long as you realize where you're starting and where you're going to. Dissolve node just switches from one background to the next. We want it to start with the traditional cursor here on the left. So we're going to have it on the background, which is 0 for now. Now we're just going to grab everything, we'll move it down, keep it nice, no tree, and we'll merge that here down so we keep it nice. Let's bring back up our media out. This is what we have right now. Guess what? We need a transform node. So we're going to click dissolve, shift space, grab ourselves a transform. All right, let's rotate this around, let's move it down, and set it up just off of there. This here is all of our icons. So we're gonna right click and hold and drag up and select everything. And then we're gonna right click and copy. And then we're gonna come over here, get some good space and paste it. Make it a little bit far away, so we're just gonna drag it in. I'm gonna come here and click this merge 4 node right before where our cursor clicks. we're going to click it, hit shift space, and add a dissolve node. And then we take our merge 4_1 and connect it to the foreground. Nothing happens. That's because they're the same. For now, we'll leave this on foreground. And let's go into our copy nodes and let's change some stuff. So background turns into a light gray. So let's change our button color. Something like there. Let's bring up our 4 so we can see it. We can come in and change the color of our icons. Let's make them black just for this tutorial. Bring up merge 6 and we can see how it changes. But there's this fade in the sub button animation. So let's come up to operation and we're going to change it to, I believe it's SMT white. And I'm going to go with top to bottom. We don't need a border, but watch how it changes now. Pretty good. And then of course you can change the feathering however you want to, whatever you want to do. I'm going to leave it about 0.3. You can even invert the wipe. Let's animate the overall sub button. For that, we got to come down to our very first merge that we put in. We're going to select that, shift space, add transform. So what I think I want to do is I want to animate it up into frame. Let's go to about 18 here. Let's select center, go back to the beginning. We're just going to take it off screen. Drag media out into the viewer so we can see what's going on. Not bad. Let's click our transform. And let's do some easing. You hit the little S icon down here and select all your points at once. And let's see what smooth looks like. That's pretty good. Nice simple animation. But I'm going to right click, go up to ease, and I'm going to select Outback Cubic. And that's going to overshoot just a little bit. So I'm going to click the transform, shift space. I'm going to add brightness contrast. Want the alpha of the process right here. So if you'll see, we turn the gain down, everything becomes transparent. So what I want to do, I'm going to select both these here. I want the transform up, and as it enters frame, that's when I want the brightness to begin to fade in. So we're going to go all the way, let's say about 22, and kick the brightness all the way back up. So right after the button is completely in frame, we want to set a keyframe on 0 gain. And then we'll go right after and turn it all the way up. Let me bring that up in the spline. We don't need to transform right now. Make sure your brightness contrast is selected, select the points, and we can just smooth it out. You can play with the spline if you want to, but a simple S curve should be fine. All right, let's see what we got. Looking pretty good. I like that little bounce. We can also go back and make sure the size is where we want to. Again, we're gonna scale everything down at the end. So we have the fade stop about 22 frames in, and that's about when I want my cursor to start moving over. So I'm gonna come up here to my transform after the first dissolve we added, and I'm gonna set a keyframe on X and Y. Now this can be a pretty quick animation. Let's say 12 seconds, so 44. Move the cursor over, make it move up a little bit, and then we want it to press in. So for that, actually, we're going to come down to our main transform for our comp. Right as 44, we want to set a keyframe. And let's make it about 6 seconds long. So we're going to go forward to frame 50 and set another keyframe. We're not going to adjust the keyframe. We're going to go in the middle. Go back 3 frames to 47 and set a keyframe. And we're just going to make it slightly smaller, kind of like when you're clicking a button on your computer. And then this should be what we have so far. And we'll bring that transform back up. We'll make sure size is selected, select all our points, and we'll just smooth it out. Now right about here we want our mouse to move back over. Since about frame 44, let's give it about half a second or so. Let's go 62. Somewhere in there, just feel it out, and we're just gonna move our mouse back. We'll give it another 12, about 74 or so. Move it back over, move it down. Let's see what we got. Pretty good. Let's bring up our spline. Hit the little arrows to zoom to fit. We'll just smooth it out. Alright, you see that causes a problem between these middle two keyframes. We really don't want anything to happen there. So I'm actually going to select those two and hit F. That will flatten that out, and that should be a lot better. You're probably wondering, well, why did we trace out the whole hand crusher thing if we can't even see it? That's where we're going to mess with this dissolve now. So let's go back to the beginning and let's scrub through. Right about there, right as it starts to go over the subscribe button, we're going to set a keyframe. Let's set a keyframe right here, and then we'll go forward, say 4 frames, and set a keyframe. Fortunately, we need to fix our hand here. We can do that by shift space and add a S transform. We can add a S transform, hold shift to connect it up, or you can do it by hand. There we go. Rotate this around. But we need to make the hand just a tiny bit bigger, so we can right click excise expression, grab this little plus symbol and drag it right over the Y size. Now they're linked together. Make it a little bit bigger. Let's see what we got there. That looks pretty close. All right, as it starts to exit, we're gonna grab our dissolve, set a keyframe, 1, 2, 3, 4, set a keyframe. Now we're back to our original cursor. Let's go back to 1. Let's see what we got. All right, looking pretty good. Now we just need our out animation. Let's go to the end. Let's go back, let's say 24 frames, about frame 98 or so. Again, you can do whatever you want to do. I think I'm going to have it spin and rotate out. So I'm going to set a keyframe on size and keyframe on angle. Go to the end. We'll crank up the rotation. Maybe negative 360. That should be good. And then we'll take our size all the way down. Bring up our spline. Select our key points. And let's just smooth it out. Alright, we should be able to get rid of that. See our total animation. As you can see, there's this weird little growing here. That's because I need to flatten these 2 keyframes on our size here. So I'll select those, hit F. And now we're about to looking like we want to. One more thing to do and we're basically done with this entire animation. Right here is our click animation. We're going to come down to our dissolve that's in between our original subscribe node and our new subscribe node. We're going to keyframe, then we'll go forward the 6 frames to 50 and move it all the way up. So this is what we should have. So there's one thing we need to tweak. As you can see, the size needs to go a little bit faster. It's cutting off our animation. That's going to look funny when you scale this down next to like your subject, something like that. So we're going to select the transform, grab the spline, and at the very end is our exit animation. So we don't need the angle, we need to select the size points. We can hit control, and we just want it to shrink a bit faster. So let's see what we got. Much better. Now we can add a transform at the very end after our brightness contrast. And this can be our master transform. Scale it down, move it around. There you go, you got your very own subscribe button. All right guys, and that's how to make your very own subscribe button. Now for your surprise, I turned this animation into a macro. Check it out on my Kofi page. And while you're down there, check out my other macros and things that'll speed up your workflow. Anyway guys, thanks for making it this far. If you want to check out my other videos, they should be popping up on screen now. We'll see you in the next one.